Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and today we are going to be reflecting upon the life of Nelson Mandela, the hero of our times, born on 8th July, and the year was 1918. He left his mortal frame on 5th December this year. The whole world is paying tributes to this man who defined our times in a very special way. President Jacob Zuma of South Africa said our nation lost its greatest son. World leaders have shared their expressions about how they feel related to the loss of this giant personality, and we are going to be looking at his life from the point of view of the rays of inspiration that are coming to us from this life well lived. And to join me in remembering Nelson Mandela and trying to connect us with his life, I have the pleasure of welcoming Professor Surendra Kaushik. You are also an educationist as well as social activist, and I have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Parveen Chopra. Chopra ji, you have also been involved with education as well as you are involved in many community organizations, both individuals very well decorated and recognized for their services in the respective field. Jumping towards the life of Nelson Mandela, it's like if you live in this period, you definitely know about Nelson Mandela, and he stands in front of you as a positive force, as a source of positive force. Starting with you, Professor Kaushik, what is it that you consider is the most significant teaching from his life for you?
First of all, let me express my condolences to President Mandela's family and to the people of South Africa. As to President Mandela, he was a caring, compassionate, and very smart man and very effective leader. And so the key about him is that he cared about others. He cared about society. He cared about his fellow beings. So he devoted his life, because as he was growing up, he could see what Mahatma Gandhi did in South Africa, what Mahatma Gandhi did in India. When Mahatma Gandhi was announcing a Quit India program in 1943, here you have Mandela that year actually joining the African National Congress and become an activist to devote his life. He's very smart, he's compassionate and caring life to public service.
So he was compassionate, and that compassion, even now when you see some of the videos where he's mingling with children, you see such a graceful and genuinely affectionate human being in front of your eyes. And when he visited New York, he also went to a school in Brooklyn, and Mayor Bloomberg has announced that there's going to be a Nelson Mandela School for Social Justice in New York very soon. And there is not only this aspect of education, but also how you treat the difficulties and obstacles that comes your way in your life. From their point of view, I'm reminded he said that it always seems impossible until it is done. And the way he was convinced about his action also becomes clear when he says that if I had my time over, I would do the same again. So would any man who dares call himself a man. In the light of this statement, Dr. Chopra, how do you look at his life, and was there any point where you felt that if he would have acted differently, that would have been probably the better way to go?
Sure. First of all, I want to heartily thank Vision of Asia ITV program particularly Dr. Banad Vishwanath Satyaji and the whole family that has run this institution for the community for a long period of time, for more than, I think, about 3.5 decades or so. And for you, for giving us the program every day, which are full of emotion and full of entertainment, and they keep us culturally connected. Coming to the question, and that is why Nelson Mandela was so unique, and what is his greatest contribution? They say that words are very cheap in life, but actions are the roads on which you stand. And people see you on that road because you have acted that way. And I think Nelson Mandela, he went up the hill and he created a very towering kind of, task for himself, which was very challenging, very unique, and of course, he stood up to that. And the way he stood up to that was where I think he, as a world leader, creates a unique example all over the world, is where he showed magnanimity to pardon all the whites who had really decimated his community. They had plundered them. They had, in fact, in one of the riots, there were 68 people, just like Jallianwala Bagh. There were 68 people who were shot, and they were all defenseless people. They were harmless. They had no arms with them, but they were demonstrating. And Nelson Mandela also thought that, he said, if you are going to kill the people who are defenseless, then we got to do something. And for 20 long years at that point, he had already done the peaceful movement. But then he said, in our mental switch, we got to change our strategy. Otherwise, British will never give us that freedom, which he loved so much. And for that purpose, he was chosen to head the military wing of American National Congress. And he did accept that position, which lasted for a short period of time. Then he went into hiding. And when he went into hiding at that point, that is the time, at the end of 1.5 years or so, holding that position, he was arrested. And that the whole, kind of different phase of his life began from that point on.
So, Dr. Chopra, he was behind the bars for 27 years. 27 long years, someone is cut off from the world as we see it, knows nothing about freedom, and yet looks like he learned a lot about freedom, even while he was confined to his prison cell. And he said that everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated to and passionate about what they do. Now, what was it that he was most passionate about comes to us in this wonderful life. Dr. Kaushik, someone who is behind bars, he finds it very difficult to start his life and connect with the normal rhythm of society. But here is this man who comes out and then he's received so well and he inspires people and he becomes the president of South Africa, the first one of this kind. What do you think has been the source of his strength and what transformed him from inside?
Well, the source of his strength, as he himself said, which you just quoted, is that he had a passion, he had dedication to the goal of freedom, to the dignity of man and woman, to the dignity of African woman. So what he had seen and what he has experienced, what Mahatma Gandhi had done in India, and later on what Martin Luther King had done in the U.S., the condition of people, slavery, apartheid, this mistreatment, wholesale mistreatment of a whole group of people, it's just unacceptable as a concept and certainly as a reality. So it is the passion for that justice. It is the passion for that humanity in man, which obviously was missing, and he became passionate about it. He dedicated to it. He dedicated his life to it. So from 43 to 62, he works hard in various capacities in the African National Congress. And then, of course, he gets arrested from 62 and finally in 65, and he spends 27 years from 62 to 90, 27 years in jail. Now, of course, the benefit of jail for a dedicated person and highly educated person, particularly in law like him, just as Mahatma Gandhi, is that he could read newspapers every day. He could listen to radio. He could read all the books. So actually his passion deepened, and he kept current with the outside conditions to not only sustain himself, to grow stronger in his belief and stronger in his passion and dedication and clarity of his goal, that his goal is superior to anything people have done in history, the goal of freeing enslaved, apartheid, discriminated whole group of people.
So his goal became clear. It's a key word. Now, what was his goal, and is there something common between his goal and our goals, the way we live in this world as world citizens? I think President Barack Obama also finds himself very much inspired by Nelson Mandela, and I'll just quote somewhere Mandela said, "If you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy." And he further says, then he becomes your partner. Now, this kind of openness to embrace one and all, and once he became president, he was willing to forgive people who had been instrumental in keeping him behind bars for 27 years. That is incredible. Just looking at the inspiration for our President Barack Obama, Dr. Chopra, how do you see the influence of Nelson Mandela on Obama?
First of all, we have to see that in the context of their own country's achievements and where they are. These two societies are totally different. South Africa certainly had, under Nelson Mandela, freedom, which is the most important thing. When you have freedom and peace, then society has a chance to make development. When he became president, I think that is what happened. It gave democracy, and it also gave peace to the country. But at the same time, some of the critics of Nelson Mandela indicate that he was not able to go beyond that, which requires economic justice, which means creating equality of opportunity for housing, for health, for employment, and other things for which human beings they live, they aspire, they try to at least make meaning out of these lives. Barack Obama, as president, definitely took over at a point where the society had already developed a lot. Let me go back a little bit. Dr. Martin Luther King, when he was organizing the campaign in 1964, when the Civil Rights, it was already clear the Civil Rights Act is going to be passed at that point, and which means that people will have, African Americans will have a right to assembly, they have a right to speech, they have a right to kind of move around and follow their own interests. But that, after getting those rights, you have to go for economic justice. And that is the time when Dr. Martin Luther King, he asked Hayward Burns and appointed him. He was over here. He became a judge, and at NYU over here. And he organized the Poor People's Campaign. They knew civil liberties are already under their belt. And Dr. Martin Luther King was told by his advisor that he must move very fast to seek that economic equality. If we don't achieve that economic equality, the civil rights movement is not going to go too far. It will not mean that much practically in their own lives.
Kofi Annan said that we have lost our clear moral compass. Now, he was not only a politician, he had his life structured on certain morals, certain principles. And it's very interesting to hear Nelson Mandela saying, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who doesn't feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." And he touched hearts of people, black and white, brown, whatever color. It was the world beyond color. It was the world of oneness that he was connecting to. And so Prime Minister of Britain said, "A great light has gone out in the world." Talking about the legacy of Nelson Mandela with respect to education, what is it? What kind of education was he looking at when he said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world? Is that education a part of our education system, Dr. Kaushik?
Well, first let me say that he was such a magnanimous person that he not only forgave, but as you mentioned, he worked actively who had kept people under them. And he was such a smart politician. And he was smart because he was well educated. He educated him in the prison, but before that he educated himself very well through the law school. And he learned what was happening in the world. He also understood the most fundamental idea that 800 years ago, Magna Carta was adopted by England. For 800 years, the same people kept people around the world under their control in what we simply call in one word colonialism, and what Dr. Chopra has talked about extensively about that. So then here you have Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and Nelson Mandela understanding that fundamental right, that fundamental goal of being free, having the same rights, using the laws that exist on books that for 800 years rulers have used to their benefit, but they have denied to the ruled. And here is a fundamental goal that they achieved with their education. And what education? The British education, Western education, law education, and of course education in all other subjects. And of course it also indicates that they have a value system. Value system is that equality is important. Equality of opportunity that he spoke in the first speech as he came out of the prison. The word opportunity that he so significantly uses in his very first speech coming out of it. Instead of giving away to people whatever, the end result, the benefit, handouts, making people dependent, and so on. In the sense of welfare society, he latched onto the concept of opportunity. These fundamental concepts, values, which then coupled with caring, giving, building a society, working with everyone in society, those are the values he represented. Those are the values he learned in his education. Now, do we have it in the United States? Do we have that in Africa? Do we have in India? No, we have a lot to work to do that. Obviously, we don't have too many Mandelas or Martin Luther Kings or Mahatma Gandhis in this world. Far from it. So yes, we need to have value-based, moral value-based kinds of elements in our education, along with economics and physics and chemistry and biology and everything else. Because after all, we are people, and we have to care about people, and we are the ones who make society and not the physical universe. So the value system that Nelson Mandela represented to build society is the value system we should be inspired by, we should emulate, and we should bring wherever possible those elements in our educational curricula.
So talking about the education that comes to us from the life of Nelson Mandela, भारत में नेल्सन मंडेला के साथ के संबंध की प्रगाढ़ता को देखते हुए 5 दिन के शोक की, राजकीय शोक की घोषणा की गई है और भारत से भी एक उच्च स्तरीय दल अंतिम संस्कार के कार्यक्रम में सम्मिलित होने के लिए दक्षिण अफ्रीका जा रहा है। आपके साथ मैं बहुत संक्षेप में याद करना चाहता हूं कि 9 बरस की उम्र में नेल्सन मंडेला ने अपने पिता को खो दिया था और उसके बाद उन्हें एडॉप्ट कर लिया गया था। चीफ द्वारा, एक ट्राइबल चीफ ने उनको एडॉप्ट कर लिया था। उनकी एजुकेशन मिशन स्कूल में हुई थी और वहाँ पर उन्होंने शिक्षा के साथ साथ ट्रैक और बॉक्सिंग भी में काफ़ी हिस्सा लिया और अंतिम इच्छाओं में उन्होंने कहा कि मुझे इस बात का मलाल रहेगा कि मैं अच्छा बॉक्सर नहीं बन पाया, पर उसके बाद उन्होंने लॉ किया एंड कानून को समझते हुए जीवन के कानून को जानने की दिशा में जो उन्होंने जीवन जिया वो हमारे लिए अनुकरणीय भी है, हमारे लिए प्रेरणा का स्रोत भी है। And I would be coming towards the concluding part of our conversation with this quote from this great gentleman. He said that we are too quick to give up and refuse to get up from our failures. I repeat, we are too quick to give up and refuse to get up from our failures. If we don't fight to get up, we are giving up on something bigger, life. We don't want to give up on life. And I want to thank both of you for joining me. And any brief reference of Mandela with respect to inspiration for you in particular?
Commitment to your goal, dedication to your goal, and compassion for others, and passion for your objective. And working at it, as Geeta said, you do your duty. Once you have your passion, once you have a goal, you give it all to it and don't shortchange yourself and therefore others. So give it and work hard and care for others.
And in 2001, he was diagnosed for cancer. In 2005, he lost his son to AIDS. And all these difficulties that were a part of his life, the way he dealt with them, what is the inspiration that you would get from his life, Dr. Chopra?
Be obsessed, never give up. Life or achievements in life depend upon S divided by T. S is the number of successes that you are going to get, divided by T is the number of trials that you have. If you don't try, you are not going, you don't know where are you going to go, you will stay where you are. So you got to try, definitely. And he was never afraid to take any position, whether it was the youth movement, whether it was anti-apartheid movement, whether it was fighting against the judicial system over there, or whether it was even going to that prison. And could you believe that? He never lost his sense of humor, which really kept him going all the time. Once his attorney had come to see, and there were two guards ahead of him, two on the right and left side and two in the back. And they are marching, and they came to see his attorney. He says, "Permit me to present my honor of guard." And even those guards, they smiled. And there were 8 people bringing him to that point over there, and he named each of those 8 people. They were very much impressed. He had that compassion, and he befriended with those jailers, with those guards of the prison. They will slip the newspaper cuttings, giving the news regarding his family, regarding his children, what was going on, and they became really wonderful. And in fact, he invited some of those prison guards at the time of his inauguration. And later on, he set up a commission, Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And he appointed one of his colleagues who was in the prison system. And when he was doing it, he knew that his cardinal goal was to bring all sections together. Wonderful. Even though Mahatma Gandhi, he went over there, but I must say one thing, he mentions in his own autobiography that for a short period of time he thought African Americans should organize their own freedom struggle, and they should not depend upon Indians, and they should not depend upon multiracial campaign. And he took the lead because he loved his people. He wanted to see them rising, and he had more faith in them. And today, of course, the Indians are making a good name there also. There are 3 million of them. And Ramaphosa is one of the big leaders over there who also worked with Nelson Mandela. And we see that the Indians, through the labor union movement over there, they earned a name. As Mahatma Gandhi experimented his ideas over there, he earned a name. And India's greatest contribution to the rest of the world is Mahatma Gandhi. Look at this, all the world leaders who have followed his way: Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, the Aung San Suu Kyi of Burma, Dalai Lama in exile. He's trying to get that religious and religious freedom as well as the cultural freedom for his own people. All of them, they have won Nobel laureates. And that's the greatest tribute to this non-violence movement and all those people who have followed it no matter where they have gone in the world.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chopra. And we have lost this Nobel Prize winner, but actually his life we can continue to find within ourselves, and there are rays of hope that he kindled which are glowing across the globe. He said, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And there is this man who proclaimed that difficulties break some men but make others. No axe is sharp enough to cut the soul of a sinner who keeps on trying, one armed with the hope that he will rise even in the end. And though he has left his body, but he is rising all over the world in a way that brings a sense of oneness to the world family. Thank you very much, Dr. Praveen Chopra ji and Dr. Surinder Kaushik for being with us and celebrating and reflecting upon the pillar of inspiration, Nelson Mandela. This is Ashok Vyas thanking all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.